I'll now introduce Tom Burrowes from Providence Gold, who is in joint venture with Catalyst Metals on his Four Eagles gold.
Well, it's been 2 years, so I think I spoke here 2 years ago, and there's been some very exciting developments in that past 2 years, and I'd have to say the big promise of gold on the cover has taken some great moves forward, and we'll hear more from Jeff Turner and Jeff McDermott as well after me. Corporate objectives. So Providence Gold and Minerals is my company. We got the project area 10 years ago with a vision to find another Bendigo. It's pretty simple, undercover, along strike, and we got a bit lucky 2 years ago with a nice high-grade intersection of 6 metres of 83 grams. And our objectives are to get into production in 2 years. That's a lofty objective. It might take a bit longer, but why not? And it's got to be done in a way that everyone benefits, in particular the local community. It's been a pleasure for me working up on the farms with the farmers up there. It's a bit of a struggle north of Bendigo, and the hospitality's been fantastic. Just a location plan, which is important. We've got, whoops, we don't really want that, do we? There we go. The which is the?
Just use the little button. Right.
No, to put the pointer.
Oh, underneath.
That one?
Yeah, index finger.
Oh, right.
So
Okay. Good.
there is another laser pointer on the other side.
Okay.
At the top
All right.
of the computer, there's a small laser.
Right. Okay. I'll use that. Thanks.
One button.
Okay, so just some orientation, which is important. There's Bendigo, obviously, with its 20 million ounce inventory or past production. Fosterville sitting over there. And we've got a series of regional faults, west dipping faults running through central Victoria, which has been confirmed by the seismic transect. This is the Four Eagles project. It's 500 square kilometres. It's 10 years old now, the licence, and it's gone through its various statutory relinquishments. We did a lot of work down here in Raywood, and the important thing here, obviously, there's Bendigo, there's Sebastian there, and Raywood. These are all outcropping, and so the outcrop finishes basically just north of Raywood. So from Raywood through to Pyramid Hill, about 80 kilometres of cover. Basically clay and the odd bit of sand sitting on top of the Murray Basin sediments. The prospective rocks have just been concealed, and for 20 years various parties have been exploring undercover and trying to focus with geophysics. Obviously magnetics was tried first. Home Estate came in 10 years ago and did a fair bit of gravity. They did a big soil program as well, but the big breakthrough came in 06 with the publication, or 08 really, of the Bendigo Midiamo gravity survey, which really helped us trace the Whitelaw fault. Up until then, the Whitelaw fault, I didn't really know where it went. And as you've said, Wes, Clive Willman et al. And amongst others have done work showing that a good spot to look for gold is several kilometres west of the major regional west dipping faults. We've got a tremendous amount of ground here. There's 25 kilometres of strike length just there. Navarre's got its own strike length, and then I've got another title map there. So this is really early days still. There's very little drilling. The drill density still on the prospective ground is basically 1 or 2 holes per square kilometre, so it's nothing. I've already said a bit of this, but the gravity survey in 06 was a big feature, and then of course that gave us a new data set to help trace the faults and some features, and Jeff Turner skillfully designed some drill traverses in 2008, and in 2009 we went in and drilled 3 holes out of 17. We drilled 17 holes, 3 of which hit anomalous gold, and that was actually for me highly significant. They were only 0.3 of a gram, but 3 of them out of 17 is just too many to hit. And Jeff had already warned me. He said, don't be too, don't expect too much from air core drilling. Don't expect to hit gold in those. So it was nice to get that. Follow-up infill hole last year, 328, was the eureka moment, and I'm still chuffed by that. 6 metres of 83 grams with visible gold, and I've got a piece in my pocket still if anyone wants to have a look at it. Actually, that's what it looks like. This is just from panning from drill chips from that intervals, 6 metre interval. The size of the is as high as 2 millimetres across, and that's just from panning the quartz chips. And I've actually got a piece of quartz with gold still in it, so that proves it's from the basement. The JV started based on a nice big intersection. I got quite a few offers of interest expressed, and ended up dealing with Bruce Kay. He's a lovely fellow, and very experienced geologist, ex-Newmont and Newmont and Normandy. So the JV, whereby they can earn 50% and going on to 75%, and that's to assess and find a new Bendigo-style goldfield. Bruce's comment was, well, we need to see whether this is just a blob in the paddock or another Bendigo or something in between, and I suspect we don't know yet. So we were pretty active on the ground. Lots of drilling's needed here. I still think there's probably 50 to 100,000 metres of drilling to really nail this beast, but who knows? It's step by step. So the active program was done in autumn, and we've got more air core drilling to resume soon, and hopefully some RC. The tricky thing about the RC drilling, of course, is that there's the clay cover sequence plus sands can make it a bit problematic for RC drilling to secure the holes and do it economically. Catalyst has one other project, which is up at Everton, the old molly mine. The geophysics, which I'm sure two Jeffs will talk more about, but basically we've found gravity to be very, very good, obviously. That's helped us with the original targeting. And then the resistivity methods are becoming more in vogue. So here's the tenement map. So the key players, obviously we've got Unity Mining on the mining lease at Bendigo. Drummond Gold have got a bit of ground here. That's all pretty well all outcropping ground, but certainly it'd be nice ground to have and to explore, and Drummond's becoming, I believe, quite aggressive about it. Castlemaine Gold have got these two bits of ground. Both excellent bits of ground, obviously, because we're looking at, obviously, following along the Whitelaw Fault. The catch is they're very busy at Ballarat, so we're hoping, well, it's up to them what they do, but these bits of ground have been fairly quiet for now, but the real activity at the moment is happening here on Four Eagles in this part of the world, and obviously at Tandara at Dingy with Navarre. So there's about 6 companies playing this. This is the joint venture ground between Providence Gold and Catalyst. There's targets all through here, which we'll get to. So just the concept, well, we all pretty well know, I guess this is motherhood stuff about how much gold Bendigo produced. The old records break them down by the lines, not particularly well because they don't really add up to the 18 million ounces of reef gold, but the gold escort returns and various other measures confirm that. But the dimensions are interesting, and I'll come to another slide which show a bit more there. So there's the long sections, and what's particularly interests me, I've always had a mantra, rich shallow gold, rich shallow gold. We have to find rich shallow gold. Going undercover is tricky, it's expensive, it's with a blindfold on, we don't have the benefit of being in amongst it. The geophysics is helpful without being particularly, well, geophysics is always like that, isn't it? It's helpful without being particularly thoroughly diagnostic. But I like these sort of things. I love to see outcropping hills. Now, obviously, we'll get to the New Chum, that was even better. But a number of, if we go look around Bendigo, Victoria Hill, New Chum Hill, there's quite a number of hills. There was Hustlers Hill, and on the Garden Gully line we had Windmill Hill, a number of hills which were outcropping, highly enriched. Incredible stories in the old days of schoolboys even just picking up quartz and taking them to the first crude batteries and producing quite a lot of gold. So our objective has to be to find these babies close to the surface. And again, just to show what the prize is, these are staggering figures. Bruce Kay put these together. When you look at how much was produced, these still dizzy me, these sort of figures. 7 million ounces in Bendigo, produced by a scramble of 30,000 diggers in a fragmented, basically handheld equipment. It's just unbelievable what the prize is. Even if we only get 10% of this prize, it's still a phenomenal prize. That should read Garden Gully as well. The Garden Gully United came in there, but first 10 years averaged 700,000 ounces per annum, and Victoria enjoys a very poor reputation in the stock market for its gold over the last 20 years, but basically most of the companies have been going below the old workings and going down deeper, and they haven't had the benefit of what this is telling us, which is the enrichment, the surface enrichment of the alluvial and the whatever processes are operating, which people more qualified than me will talk about. But this is what's attracted me. One of these is sitting under 20 metres of clay up on a farm owned by friendly farmers. Hard to beat. So if we superimpose the footprint of the Bendigo goldfield where we are at Mitiamo, so this is at the northern end of the title, if you can remember the photo I showed you, picture before. So there's our 25 strike kilometres from one end to the other of the licence, and We did some drilling back here in '06, which was probably the wrong side of the fault, as it turns out. But we still got some interesting numbers which need follow up. But this is where we really had the guts of our joy. And what we're showing is that you could fit a Bendigo in here, or a Bendigo could fit in there. So that's a bit of arm waving though. This is zooming back out a bit more. We've got the showing where we've taken the liberty, Jeff, of putting the VAR's publicly available domain onto our picture here, and that shows both the different trends that are shaping up on the dinghy licence, the Tandera licence, and what we're doing up here. This also shows our drill density. As you can see, there's just huge gaps here of no data at all. This area's never been drilled. The home stake drilled a few holes in here. They drilled one there, and otherwise north of that one hole, no, that was North Broken Hill, I beg your pardon. North Mining drilled one 20 years ago, about there, and then there's been nothing drilled north of here since we went there 2 years ago. So zooming in again, so yeah, if we zoom in on that little collection there, we can see two things. Firstly, a fairly crude attempt, well I think it is, but we've got to start at defining what the zones are. And we define them by three things really. There's the gold assays obviously, there's the arsenic assays, and there's the quartz percentages that we hit in holes. And bearing in mind that not all the drill holes are going to go deep enough to hit the right zones. That's one of the inherent limitations of air core drilling. Although we've been very fortunate, very lucky really, the air core is averaging over 50 metres into basement, into the weathered basement. So this is a pretty nice table of intersections. All of this drilling to date's been scout drilling, and even the infill drilling through here where we had our best intersection is still 80 metres apart. Save for two holes, we've only done two duplicate holes, and I'm pleased to say both those duplicate holes, or repeat holes, which were angled under the original vertical intersection, repeated the original values plus or minus 100, plus or minus an order of magnitude. So yeah, have we got coarse gold? Yes. Is it repeatable? Well, it was good. We had it was pretty critical actually. Hole 471 repeated 3 metres of 15, but from 3 metres of 1. So 6 metres of 1. So 6 metres of 1 repeated at 3 metres of 15, and then hole 415, 3 metres of 15 repeated at 3 metres of 1. So even though these holes are going to wander and they're not surveyed and we don't really know where they are, the fact that two holes are within cooey of each other and still getting gold, I find highly, well, I get excited easily. I'm excited by that, but it's nice to know that we can define and start to measure a bit better. So we're getting bold enough to name some zones. 3 of them are defined as having high-grade intersections of gold, but otherwise they're also defined by the arsenic and gold trends. We've got another one sitting out here by itself, so I'm sort of thinking this could be the Hustlers, this could be the Garden Gully, this could be the Sheep's Head, the New Chum, and this might be out on the Sholton line or something like that. So rolls off the tongue, but that's the ambition. That's what the country looks like. It's nice to see 2 rigs in the one picture. I know Gutnick used to have 5 or 10 diamond rigs in one picture, but 2 up here is good. If this area was in the Yilgarn, like right now there's probably 300 or 400 reconnaissance, air core, RAB drilling going on in the Yilgarn at the moment. This area has just been totally neglected. It's really odd. I mean, looking along strike of a 20 million ounce goldfield is not rocket science. It's an obvious thing to do. It needs a lot more drilling. The diamond drilling was conducted there. A couple of holes. I'll get to the cross section in a minute. This is another one that Bruce Kay put together just to show. So what we've done is we've ripped off Rod Boucher's, or copied Rod et al.'s picture of what the Bendigo geology can look like, the various styles that pertain to Bendigo, and then put some cover over the top of it, and then said, well, this is what we're drilling. With a blindfold on, what are we expecting to get? So that actually showed well, and it sort of backs up. Now I understand, Jeff, when you said don't expect to hit too much gold in air core drilling, you can sort of see why. This does make the problem look a bit outrageous. Anyway, we're finding, I think, that it's similar to Bendigo, but as I said, others more qualified than me will talk about that. Okay, here's our cross section. So that's, I'll see if I can take you back to where that's located. Right, so along this road here, This is quite a busy section. Our first drilling 2 years ago was 294, then we went 295, so 160 metre intervals, and the methodology was quite simple. We were spaced a certain distance west of the major fault. We were on a gravity feature that Jeff selected, and Sarah, I have to acknowledge too, you were there on the rig. We were both there on the rig when we hit these, and the geochem work had done that said there was an 80 metre radius there was a halo of arsenic over an 80 metre width pertaining to Bendigo style mineralisation. So on that basis, we should, if we're on the min, we should hit an arsenic halo in 160 metre spaced holes, and well, we did better than that. We hit gold. So the fifth hole, hole 297, was 3 metres of half a gram, and then 299 was 3 metres of 1 gram. That was a repeat assay on a screen fire assay. So we've then come back and infilled, and that was the big one, 328, that came in a year ago. That was the 6 metres of 83 grams. Again, that was a screen fire assay, and that ended in min. So then after Catalyst came in on the JV, we put in these 2 diamond holes, and the good news is both of those, they didn't quite trace the way they were designed, but both of them hit gold. So once again, if we ask someone from Unity Mining what percentage of your diamond holes hit gold and in what tenor, it would be interesting to match that with what they find at Bendigo, which is a known proven field. I would suggest two diamond holes getting gold is quite remarkable and very pleasing. Now the mapping of so there's the cover sequence. It's mostly clay. There's a little bit of sand in it, and that sand can be problematic for us all. And then we've got the lignitic bands or carbonaceous clay sitting in there, plus the saprolite zone. Then we've got the Castlemaine group sequences of sandstone, etc. There's the gold. I don't get sick of this. So looking ahead, the Catalyst has already spent their 450, so they're heading in for another 1.5 million to be spent over the next 2 years. It'll be mostly air core drilling, geophysics obviously, and the RC drilling will be occurring as well. So there's plenty for us to look forward to over the next 2 years. And thank you very much indeed. That's it.
Questions for Tom?
Yeah.
Yeah. The gold that you've intersected, how much of that do you believe is alluvial? Some of it's quite close to that alluvial bedrock surface.
Yes. After the first round, I was quite disappointed at not seeing much alluvial development. But thanks for asking the question, because I just happen to have in my pocket what to me looks like a nice rounded quartz pebble of the White Hills gravel. And forgive, I'm not a geologist, but it looks awfully like White Hills to me. So to me, that's a certain amount of evidence of alluvial development and preservation that's critical to have. I can't see why we won't have it. I really can't. And to me, there can always be, if there was marine incursion and there was chloride-rich waters may have dissolved the gold, blah, 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 all of that could have happened. But if we look through central Victoria, 60% of central Victoria's gold production was alluvial gold. So unless there was a marine incursion that may have dissolved the gold, I can't see why there wouldn't be, and I think that's a nice piece of evidence. The other piece of evidence which we probably overlooked in the drilling is the angular. There's two, if we look in Bendigo, I think there's 2 styles of alluvial gold. There's the White Hills gravel, the older tertiary style, and then there's the recent stuff where it's all broken and still quite angular. It can be smooth and waterborne, but if we go shovel into a creek and pan some gold, any of the creeks around Bendigo is generally not typified by that, but just loose, semi-angular metals. Now, we probably haven't been paid enough attention in the drill samples to see those sorts of alluvial rocks symptomatically. So that's something I'm now more aware of. So the fact, though, that we also got hole 299 had 3 metres of 0.3, and that was at the interface. If we go back to so that was at the interface, this one here. Look at that. So, and it went from 3 metres of 0.3 to 3 metres of 1 gram. So that could imply it's alluvial, but these are 3 metre composites as well. It's not particularly accurate. Anyway, I live in Hope. I'm a believer that there's alluvial gold there. But we've seen some evidence of it, but not powerful yet.
If I can say something, certainly in our ground to the south, we don't sort of see any marine sediments over the top, so we sort of discount there being a marine incursion. And in actual fact, we sort of see lignite developing in that area there, which is definitely telling you not in a marine environment. So we're pretty confident that if the alluvials are there, they'll be preserved, sort of based on sort of the sedimentation in the Murray Basin.
Right. Well, we've got the same lignitic clays here, so
Sort of preserved.
right. Jeff Turner.
Yeah, I'm on next slide.
Right.
If I could just have your little, I've got that slide
pointer?
up. Yeah, your red
Okay.
pointer is thingy. This area here, we got a bit of a hit just in that one, and there in the right on the saprolite cover contact, and this one is just underneath us. Well, actually, it was in saprolite, so saprolite actually comes in a little bit lower. There has been a thought, which is probably a realistic target, that mineralisation, secondary enrichment mineralisation, may develop in the saprolite zone. It would be low grade. You're probably looking at half a gram to 1.5, maybe 2 grams tops. But that secondary enrichment could actually happen in these clay-rich zones there. Another thing too is that one thing why aircore works is because the gold, in the hydrological processes against your ore body, your gold is going to migrate up, and it seems to deposit out right on your saprolite basement contact, and you do get another enrichment zone, which is also relates to what I've just said. So that's why you do get, often you get, but most of the time though, your hits are greater than 0.1. I use a 0.1 as a cut-off, it's an anomaly, and they usually develop in that saprolite cover contact zone. But that's an indication that you're not in the middle of Victoria, you are close to a deposit, and so you can outline your geochemical anomaly and then go for your RC or diamond drilling afterwards. And as Tom said, I keep telling you, we don't expect to hit high grades. We're looking for halos, not ore bodies.
I don't mind finding ore bodies, you know. The other thing is the arsenic. We've found our biggest arsenic hit's been right at the interface, hasn't it, Jeff? 2,600 ppm.
Yes, yeah.
But typically associated with marcasite.
Yeah, the marcasite, and also that anoxic zone because of the lignite zone. You can see we've got carbonaceous clays here in that dark brown horizontal line. That's the only formation in the red mark group. And it's got a lot of carbonaceous clays. It's very anoxic. You get marcasite development underneath it in the sands. Those marcasites will actually suck out arsenic from up to 500 metres away. So if you get a high grade hit, a high arsenic hit in marcasite, you're within shouting distance of something significant.
What sort of distance are we looking at in the cover sequence?
This cover sequence here, there's 140 metres here, quite nasty, and the other end's 45 metres. And that's another interesting thing. So there's 100 metres. This is a 2 kilometre section, well, not even, across east-west. I've got out my topo maps of Bendigo, and I've taken the Google Earth cursor across it up and down. There's usually no more than 30 or 40 metres of topographic variation around Bendigo, the Bendigo goldfield. Castlemaine's the same, apart from when you get east into the granite, which is not on the goldfield, obviously. This has got far more incision and topographic variation than we see at Bendigo. So I don't know what that means. I don't know.
It's that Diamond Hill, Spring Gully area.
No, well, I haven't got to 100 metres, and that's only 2 kilometres across. The best I could get in spots at Bendigo was 70 metres, but most of it was 30 and 40. So the incision of the basement here is quite something. What it means, I wouldn't know.
All right, well, thank Tom. It looks like.
Thank you so much.